Good morning, good morning, good morning. The sun is shining, the birds are chirping, and you are breathing. Today is Saturday, February the 17th, 2024, and I would like to welcome you all to This is Just a Thought with Stephen Carnegie. Hope everyone's enjoying their Saturday or will enjoy their Saturday. I should say the weekend is finally here. The weekend is finally here. Wow. Been a pretty long week filled with all work and hey, a little bit of celebration back on what was that? Tuesday, February the 14th. Or Wednesday, I should say, February 14th, Valentine's Day. Hope everyone enjoyed their Valentines. Hope everyone got those roses and candies and gifts and date nights and all of the niceties that come along with the day dedicated to love. Hmm. Well, if you didn't enjoy your Valentine's Day too much, there was always the day after, February the 15th. Happy Side Piece Day. uh, Half off candy and withered flowers. Hey, if it works for you, it works for you. I'm not knocking you, not in the least. There's no way I can knock you. If you enjoyed that, then hey, you enjoyed that. But oh well, oh well. Let's move along here. Hey, hit that like and subscribe button along with that bell icon so you can get notified when I drop these podcasts. Keep you in the loop. Before we go any further, hit that like and subscribe button for me along with that bell icon. You would it would do you well to get notified when I drop these podcasts. Hey, there's a lot of interesting topics that we're going to talk about as always. Hey, you never know what I'm going to dive into. You just don't. You just don't. Could be quite entertaining and enlightening. Who knows? You never know which way the mop is going to flop. You just don't. All right, let's move along here, man. Hey, today's word of the day, bedabble, which means easily led, taught, or controlled. Bedabbled. Hmm, that's a very interesting word. Just is. It really is very interesting. Never heard that one before. Never heard that one before. Hey, as far as the temperatures go here in North Carolina, man, it has been a pretty beautiful week, I gotta say, as far as temperatures. I mean, temps are up in the upper 50s, 60s. And one day last week, or maybe this week also, we got close to high 60s and going towards the 70s. So that was a plus, man. A lot of people walking around with their shoulders out and their legs are showing. And they'll probably be barking next week. And then again, maybe not. Maybe not, because what they're saying is temperatures here in North Carolina is going to stay in the mid 50s. A little breezy today, though. Man, a little breezy. Temperatures are expected to be in the 50s, but the temperatures are going to drop tonight, and it's going to get down into the 20s and 30s also tomorrow night. But we will be seeing a little warm up next week. Temperatures are going to be back up there in those high 60s, going towards 70. That's odd for February, man. Just is. And of course, rain will return sometime next Friday to be exact. Like I always say, hey, I'll take this rain and mild temperatures in comparison to the rest of the country. I just will. New York, up northeast, is expected, of course, to get some more snow. And then on the West Coast, California, man, they continue to get hammered. They're getting rain again around that Santa Barbara area once again. Wow. And if you saw the news coverage earlier this week, probably saw like I did, and it kind of, I won't say it blew my mind, but it just made me think. As far as California goes, those homes, those that were two houses that were sitting on a cliff, and well, that cliff looked like it was about gone. Their backyard was gone. Their back half of their house looked like at any second it could drop. California is a beautiful place, but man, the weather sometimes. I don't know if I could rock with that between those earthquakes and now the rain and those mudslides. Wow. So pray for those folks out there in Cali and even some of these folks out here in the Northeast because they're getting ready to get hammered or have been hammered with snow. Man, yeah, I'll stay in the South. I'll stay right here in the South. I just will. I just will. Maybe I could one day somehow, some way work it out when the weather turns and that Carolina heat comes. I could probably maybe go and stay somewhere else in the United States. But as far as the weather goes, I'll stick right here in North Carolina. I just will. Maybe not in the summer though. And if you know, you know that Carolina heat, it can be a beast, and maybe it's coming. Well, it is a coming, but man, maybe it's coming sooner than we think because with these mild temperatures, it does make you wonder: are we going to have a early spring? It looks that way. Just does. Maybe that groundhog was right. Maybe it was right. Looks like we're going to have an early spring, man. Our temperatures, wow, it has not dropped down into the 20s, 30s or 20s since the beginning of January. And here we are, February. We're at the middle of the month for February, going into March. Spring is not too far off. So, man, once again, another year. We haven't had any winter. Just haven't. Not in this part, not in this neck of the woods anyway. But we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. All right, let's move along here, man. Yesterday, if you guys have been looking at the news or maybe your social media feed, I'm sure by now you know oh so well. Wow, President Trump, the woes and the troubles continue. He got hammered yesterday in court in New York. One of his many um, open court cases, I guess you could say. The guy seems like he's a glutton for punishment. Damn. Well, yesterday he got hammered by a New York judge for his fictitious inflation of the values of his businesses and properties in New York. So much so he can't practice or he can't run a business in New York for 3 years, and he's been fined $8 million, 8 million or more, I should say. And his two sons, Eric and Donald Jr., they can't practice or can't run a business in New York State for 2 years. Wow. Let's see. He inflated the value of his business or a business he had in New York, his real estate and his other property. Then he even inflated the price of his property down in Florida, the infamous Mar-a-Lago, where they found all those classified documents. He still has to go on trial for that. And he inflated those things by, man, I say hundreds of millions when his business was only worth 20 some odd million there in New York, and I believe the Mar-a-Lago home in Florida was only worth like 60, and he inflated those things or gave a estimated value of hundreds of millions of dollars more. So it finally caught up with him yesterday. The judge said, "No way, no how. You're not going to practice. You're not going to run any businesses here in New York for 3 years, and your sons, Donald and Eric, for 2 years. So if those businesses that are still there in New York, if those three have been taken out of the equation, who's running the businesses? Who's the chief financial officers? Who's the CEO? It looks like it's not going to be the Trumps for a minimum of two, and Donald Trump himself three. Man, I hope those businesses don't falter." Wow. President Trump sure has a lot going on. I mean, from the first one with the defamation of the author, and he has to pay her some money, and now this with what's going on with these or what has just happened with him inflating the price and values of his properties and businesses in New York. Then he has the classified document scandal down in Mar-a-Lago, Florida. Then he has the I guess they're trying to say trying to steal the election in Georgia. They're threatening and intimidation the poll workers and the head of the election board down there. Wow, he has a lot going on. By the way, side note, and I often say this a lot of times: people will reach for something that ain't there. And in this case, down in Georgia, the DA is now on trial because they're saying apparently she had an inappropriate relationship with a co-counsel that she had hired to work on the case with her against Donald Trump or those that aligned themselves with President Trump and were threatening and intimidating poll workers and election officials. down in Georgia. So they're saying that quite possibly there could have been some money exchanged that shouldn't have been exchanged. That was part of her defense. That's part of the people's money. And if you didn't understand what I just said, I don't understand it either. I got to be honest with you. They're reaching. They are. Well, she's on trial. She took the stand yesterday along with her father also. Wow. Why didn't you call her father to the stand? Because they're saying she used some funding and went on these lavish vacations and dinners and properties she had, and maybe she shouldn't have had. She had money in the home. She said, "Hey, yeah, I have money in the home. I was taught and always raised to have 6 months of cash on your person at all times." Smart, smart woman. Looks like she was reared right. But she said all that is her money. She worked for it. And I gotta say, as far as the relationship between her and that special prosecutor that was brought in to help with the case against President Trump, I think what they're saying is, all those, the trips, the cruises, the hotel stays, or her having a separate residence from her permanent home. She has a condo. I guess what they're saying is they use some funding they use that funding to facilitate those. Meetings and dates and whatever, what having and vacations. But I gotta say, that's a reach. That's just a reach. You have two consenting adults. They're adults. They aren't, well, the special prosecutor was married, but he got divorced. And they're saying as soon as he filed the paperwork for divorce, he immediately started a relationship with her. Whatever the case may be, immoral it may be, they're consenting adults. They're grown. What business is it of mine? Are you saying that goes towards her morality? Okay, and we now know 1,000,001 people. Some of us in our own personal lives, we do things because we want to, because we're grown. We'll deal with the consequences later. I don't really think this is cause to remove her from this case. I just don't. I can't see it. Usually I can spot these things out, but it just appears to me there's a whole lot of grabbing going on. And you guys are grasping for straws because it ain't nothing there. The world people. They did what they wanted to do. If anyone should be upset, maybe, quite possibly, is the special prosecutor's ex wife. I wonder why they hadn't called her up yet. Or maybe they are. She probably told him to get it. Well, never mind. I won't say that. I won't say that. But yeah, there's a lot going on with Trump, President Trump, and his legal troubles and world woes. And now we have those down in Georgia that are trying to bring charges up on that DA and the special prosecutor also. Oh, boo hoo, give it a rest. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. And if you know anything, I told you guys how I felt about that happened down in Georgia. That was just totally uncalled for. That was totally Bush League. I just can't see as a like I told you, I worked as a poll worker. I can't just see threatening poll workers. What are they? What threat can they possibly pose? They're poll workers and they're election officials. All they're doing is counting the ballots. Finish counting, it is what it is. But that was during that time when President Trump was on that rant that saying that the election had been rigged. It had even been stolen from him. So I guess those that felt near and dear to his heart decided they would take up the challenge and threaten folks. He still hasn't gone to trial on that as of yet. Hasn't even been I think there's been a few preliminary cases or court dates where they just got together and said, "Hey, this is what we're charging them with," or whatever, what have you. But outside of that, he hasn't really appeared down there. So for those that are defending him to now come up with this, you guys are reaching. You're reaching hard and you're reaching far, and you ain't grabbing nothing. Because I ain't convinced there's any wrongdoing here. All I see is two grown, consenting adults that might have made some piss poor decisions and choices as it relates to their personal life and them getting together. But I don't think it's anything criminal. I don't think it's anything where they took that funding and furnished and funded a lavish lifestyle. Don't see it. Just don't. Let's move along here. Also, in more Trump news, he may have stuck his foot in his mouth, or he may not, for his comments about those NATO countries that he's saying aren't, you know, for the longest time, ever since he's got elected, or even before he got elected, he made it clear that he wanted out of the UN and he didn't support NATO. As he said then, and he said now, he reiterated last week that he feels as though these countries that are part of these peacekeeping unions aren't chipping in their fair share as far as income, and he said if he was elected, he would let it be known to NATO, especially that if these other countries don't start chipping in more as far as funding and for weapons or whatever or what have you, programs to help feed or clothe or whatever, that he didn't see a problem with Russia. With Russia doing whatever the hell they wanted to with them, attack them. President Trump. Give it to President Trump. He will say something that'll get you riled up, and it has gotten a lot of folks riled up, especially the Democrats and some in the Republican Party. They're going off the record. They're saying they can't support that. I um I understand his thinking because I myself have said, if you heard anything or you've been listening, I've even questioned the fact that the U.S. seems to be or appears to be the only one adding it up when it comes to helping countries with their defense. Well, Ukraine, and all this stems from Ukraine. But right before the war between Russia and Ukraine started, Ukraine went to the UN and I believe even NATO and asked if they could join. They said no, not now. You're getting ready to go into a war. You should have been a member before. There's really well. Then Ukraine came back and said, "Can we get some help?" Well, if you know anything, you're not a part of NATO or the UN. They really can't do anything for you. They can't defend you. They can't go over there and fight side by side with you. So this is where this all stems from, the Russia-Ukraine war. Very interesting, because like I said, hey, I've said it myself. I don't know about you, but I've said it myself. It appears the U.S. is always anteing it up and giving funding to these countries. Where are the other countries that are part of NATO and the UN? Shouldn't they be helping out also? And if you're saying to yourself, well, they may not have that much money, get it, got it, understand it. But surely you could do something. Don't lay everything in the U.S.'s lap. So that appears to be what is going on. President Trump is, wow, this guy. Wow, this guy. He is, he's always in it. He's always in the thick of something with someone or some group. And now it appears he's taking it international also. He's always riling everyone up. Like I said, those Democrats, when they heard that he said that, they said, "Oh, that's just horrible. How could he?" Well, he did raise a very interesting point, I gotta say. Whether you agree with his style of politics or you agree or disagree with him as a person, uh, you gotta say why and pray tell is it the U.S. is always the one funding or helping? And of course, hey, you gotta agree with him on that. But I don't know about allowing Russia to do whatever the hell they want to those countries. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. That's a no for me. That's a no for me. And also, man, keeping up with Russia. Wow, a strong critic of Putin has turned up dead in a prison in Russia, an isolated prison colony in a remote part of Russia. Now, this was the guy, I don't want to say his name because I'm going to butcher it, but if you've been following the news, you know. This is the guy who has criticized Putin at any and every level. This is also the gentleman years ago. Uh, he was in this country, another country somewhere outside of Russia, and Russia was trying to get him back, and he was like no, but somehow, some way, he ended up taking ill. They're saying that he got poisoned, and it quite possibly could have been Russia because they're saying it was a chemical attack of some sort. Um, well, if you know Putin, You know, a lot of his critics, they ain't just came up missing, they've come up dead or in prison. So this gentleman here, he was finally brought back to Russia. He was placed in jail. But the crazy thing is about it, they found him dead in the cell Friday, but that Thursday he appeared in court via um, a camera, via telemonitor. He wasn't in the actual courtroom. He was being videoed. He appeared to be in up spirits. His spirits were high. He was laughing, joking, yada yada yada, rah rah rah. And somehow, some way, early Friday morning, he ended up dead in a jail cell. Now, President Biden has came out and said, "Hey, Putin killed him." Mr. President, should you have said that? I don't think so, because you don't rightfully know. No details have really came out except for the fact that this guy was found dead in a jail cell early Friday morning. That's it. I mean, of course, the rumor mill started with Putin got another one because, as I said, a lot of Putin's foes and critics have came up. Well, they ain't came up missing. They came up dead. There was one gentleman a year or two ago, maybe 2 years ago. He was a Putin critic. He was flying in an airplane. Bomb went off and it blew it up. First they thought it was a missile, but apparently maybe it was a missile, and he ended up dead. So they're saying this falls right down the line with Putin and what he does to his foes and critics. Well, yeah, maybe, but for the president of the United States to come out flat out and say, "Hey, Putin killed him," without any concrete evidence, just a rumor mill, Mr. President, you might find yourself in a little bit of trouble there. You just may. You just may. You may find yourself in a little bit of trouble, man. I don't think you should have said that. I really don't. I just wouldn't. Not without some concrete evidence. That's the only way I can see it. That is the only way I can see it. All right. Let's go get it. Hey, an interesting report has came out for North Carolina, here in North Carolina. And it did make me think, and I got to be honest with you, it makes perfect sense. And I myself has said the same thing. Now, in this report, it talks about, it says pretty much North Carolina residents need more degrees, certificates to meet the job demand that is being pushed forward here in North Carolina. The tech, I told you guys some time ago about the how North Carolina is jumping into that technology age where they're trying to get these companies to come to North Carolina. Some company have came and are coming and said, "Hey, we're fully invested. We're going to move some of our distribution, our business here to North Carolina." You got Google, Apple. You got the electronic car making companies, the batteries for the cars. And that's just to name a few that are moving to North Carolina. But in this report, it's pretty much says, and if you think about it, makes perfect sense. It says that North Carolina needs to up its education game as early as kindergarten to 12th grade, um, colleges even, to get these certificates and degrees that is needed in order to have these companies bring their business here and hire residents in North Carolina and not hire residents from out of state and have them moved here too. Makes perfect sense. It really does. Now, North Carolina education and business leaders say the state needs more funding, along with some policy changes, and also to help lower income residents earn credentials towards jobs in order to compete and not have these businesses that I named earlier leave the state and go elsewhere. Uh, the report goes on to say that the state is short on people who have a credential, whether it be a certificate or an associate's degree or higher, compared to the number of jobs that are open or will become open. If these companies move, hey, there's going to be a lot of jobs here in North Carolina. Now, this report, which was conducted by My Future North Carolinas, which is the newest state of education attainment report, is what it's called. It was released Thursday. And what they're saying, if North Carolina doesn't get on the stick, that gap is going to grow quickly and wider. In other words, a lot of these companies, they may be looking like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me we're coming and you guys don't even have somewhat people that are qualified? So not only are we going to bring our business here and have to set up and shell money out for that, thank you for the the incentives, because we all know that's what every state does when they get these big companies in. They give them incentives, tax breaks, or whatever, what have you. But you don't have any people that can work that are qualified. Now, the report goes on to say the number of students not achieving a degree or industry valued credential certificates within 6 years or less, that makes North Carolina is more than is less than a third ready, even going back to high school. So what they're essentially saying is uh, our education is lacking as far as getting these folks in position to take these jobs and make that money and make their quality of life better also, because that was addressed in the report. And that comes into play with those low income people, residents here in North Carolina that haven't, don't have the credentials, don't have the education opportunities. Uh, what are you going to do? Well, it seems pretty simple. Education. They are going to have to start as early as kindergarten and all the way up to 12th grade. 12th grade. At one point in time, North Carolina did have a pretty substantial amount of kids that were dropping out of school. That's going to have to be addressed. How do you get their minds geared and on track to educate themselves to better their quality of life once they graduate from high school? Hmm. Well, there's going to have to be some workplace development, and there's going to have to be some educational changes also. The old school way of just reading, writing, and arithmetic ain't cutting it. When I was coming along, they told you, "Hey, go to college, get a degree, and your life will be much much better." Well, everyone can't go to college or doesn't want to go to college to get a degree. So that's where these certifications comes in at these community colleges. There's also been a push here in North Carolina with a bolstering of community colleges, Durham Tech, Wake Tech, just here locally. Um, there has been a huge push to redirect training geared towards these tech companies that are coming. Also towards something is not little, but it is very much needed because like plumbing, electricians. Hey, you would be surprised how much a plumber makes. Hey, you just would, or you wouldn't. If you ever have to call a plumber, you ain't surprised. So there's been a push at these technical schools to get that field back up and running. Like I said, when I was coming along, those trades were being phased out with going to college to get a education, get a 4-year degree or more. But also in this report, what is found is that not only are the residents here in North Carolina ill equipped, but more specifically, they're ill equipped as far as education or having the job training because a lot of them drop out of school. They drop out of school and they're not pursuing a higher education. They're not pursuing trades also. Hmm, how odd. Like I said, when I was coming along, a trade was shunned because it was all about getting a 4-year degree. So everyone's mind has to change now. It ain't all about getting a 4-year degree and living in that big house, with the white picket fence and two car garage or whatever, what have you. There's more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way to make a buck. Just is. Now, with all these exceptional career opportunities that are coming, North Carolina really has to step its game up, and it does as far as just education. And one thing the governor has said in the past, and many have agreed with him, that like I said, everyone doesn't have to go to a 4-year degree. There needs to be some certificates given that they can further their improve their quality of life also. So that's where the community colleges come in. That's where that pushes came in. They have said, however, they are seeing an uptick in enrollment at these community colleges for certain certificates for people that are 25 and older, not just those fresh out of high school. 25 and older would be those that would possibly be qualified as working adults that have been working for a while and said to themselves, I think I need to go back to school and get a certificate in something and up my pay and better my life. Get no argument from me on that. That is what is needed. And it's also needed here in North Carolina to up that educational game, that training game. And they're saying it's going to start. It's going to even start in junior and high school. Hey, I remember when I was coming along, and I don't know if they still have these. We used to call them electives. You had your regular classes. I think now they call them specials. When you got to high school, you had carpentry work, you had auto mechanics, you had graphics, and I don't know if they still have those in school now. They probably do. So what they're saying is they're going to put a more concentrated effort in high school for these careers from these tech companies that are coming. You get the kids, young men and women, looking at that. Look at that as a way of going out into the workforce once you graduated. And that's perfect. That makes sense. When you got Apple and Google coming, and you got electric car making companies coming, and you got the batteries that are needed, those big companies are coming. Yeah, you got to change some things. You got to rework some things. You got to change some minds because, like I said, there's no need for these companies to be coming. It ain't nobody here locally to do the job, and they have to go outside of the state and bring those people in. It ain't a stretch. It's common sense to me. Yeah, you got to change some things. So what it looks like is, like I said, they're going to start in grades K through 12, but really a concentrated, horned in effort on those in high school and junior high school. Now, what they said is the state is about 24,000 people short of being on pace for the goal right now. Now, what they said is they wanted to meet this goal of having these people trained and educated by 2030. It's only 6 years away. But they're saying that they are seeing some strides and improvements. And even though it may appear bleak right now, but they're saying that the strides and improvements they're making as far as getting into these community colleges and getting into these high schools and getting folks, these young men and women that change their mind and look at a different avenue to pursue in order to better their quality of life and up their income, it is looking good. Well, I have personally, me myself, I've talked to my kids. I've let them know, hey, at one point in time, I was that father that was saying, go to college, go to college, go to college, get a 4-year degree. And then I realized, wait a minute, um, college won't for you. What makes you think it's for them? So I had to backtrack and say, well, college may not be for you, but go to a community college, get a certificate. Get a certificate in something. Something you can find, maybe you find something there you like and enjoy and can do for yourself. You don't necessarily have to go to a 4-year college. Now, that's the talk I had to have with my kids. And I hope those out there that are listening, you have that talk with your kids also. Everybody ain't college built. They're just not. Now, this group, it met Thursday in Sanford, but what it did do, it came up with what they're saying is 3 policy recommendations for North Carolina and state lawmakers to make and implement to step their game up so they can have and meet this goal by 2030 and not have these companies come down here and then be befuddled and looking like, wow, they're a bunch of yokels in North Carolina, aren't they? The first one was, of course, for state lawmakers to provide emergency assistance for students to complete their college degrees. This could prevent students from dropping out when something disruptive happens in their life. Okay. The second one of these policy recommendations is for lawmakers again to provide financial aid for lower income students pursuing a credential. Currently, and I didn't know this, the federal Pell Grants, they can help lower income students pursue degrees, but the grants, they can't be used towards certificates that don't go towards degrees. So if you wanted a Pell Grant to go to school to say, go to a community college, let's say for something, you needed some money and you wanted to go and get your certification in HVAC or auto, something in the auto mechanics field or plumbing, you can't use a Pell Grant. Pell Grant is only for college degrees. It's not for certificates. Didn't know that. Now, the third policy change that they're hoping that state lawmakers will look at and take seriously is the group is asking for funding to help leaders collaborate to improve education attainment across North Carolina. That goes back to going back into these high schools and these middle schools. And even with the little kindergartners and elementary, they're saying, hey, introduce them to something, introduce them to some of this technology early on in life. That way, their mind will be geared towards quite possibly seeking a career in this field. And also, it's not just technology. They're saying they need more help and they need more rearing and guidance for health care. Also, we all know during COVID what a slam that healthcare industry got with as far as the nurses. A lot of nurses were saying, "Nah, this ain't worth it. Y'all ain't paying me enough." So they're saying, "Hey, put some funding towards the healthcare field, also in education." The report, if you really sit back and think about it, really doesn't. It sheds light, but it's a light that really should have already been shed by our state lawmakers and leaders. And even ourselves as citizens of North Carolina, we're saying, hey, pump up the economy, bring some jobs here. Long gone are the days of just working in textile or in agriculture. North Carolina has changed. It has changed. It doesn't have it has to change, and it has changed. It sees that, hey, the rest of the country is gearing towards this technology field. We need to do the same. Agriculture and textile ain't it anymore. It's not. The world is changing. The world is evolving. Technology is it. If you want to compete, you're going to have to educate. You're going to have to re-educate. You have to take some of the old style of education out. The old reading, writing, and arithmetic. It's got to go by the wayside. So you're going to put these programs and these courses in these schools that is really horning in and talking about technology. Different world we are living in. It is. It just is. Because, like I said, when I was in school, it was all about a 4-year degree. If you don't. Hey, I was flat out told, if you don't get no 4-year degree, you ain't gonna be worth nothing. Partially true, I gather. I guess. Well, I'll keep you guys updated on that because that most definitely did catch my eye and it got me to thinking. It just did. And with the state saying that, hey, we want to have 24,000 people, we want to have 71,000 people up and ready to go by 2030, but they're 24,000 short now. But they're also saying, hey, we're looking good. We're making strides and making changes. Yeah, it's going to take some time. You got 6 more years to get on the stick. A lot of these companies are coming in less than 6 years. So, got to change your educational system, higher educational system. And now it appears, it looks like they're even thinking about changing the lower educational system, starting in elementary. Yeah, introduce these kids to some of this technology. Many of you may be saying, oh, that's a huge leap. This generation here, I gotta say, they are technology savvy. They're technically savvy. They are. They enjoy it. Hey, much more than us old fogies in our manual way of doing things. The times have changed. The times have changed. Well, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to skedaddle. Get in that comment section. Let me know what you think about this. Is North Carolina on pace to compete with the rest of not just the rest of the United States, but the rest of the world, as far as with the mindset of, hey, we got to change our education, we got to change how we train people to think, so they can get out and be more productive when they're adults, financially, they can be set and ready to go, as opposed to struggling and striving for something that they really can't attain because they don't have uh, the credentials that are needed. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I think they are. Let me know what you think. And let me know what you think about old former President Trump. Wow. This guy. Golly, man. I would say when you're going to learn, but it don't appear. You got to dish out 8 mil plus. I'm sorry, because he still has to pay the lady for the defamation. So you got to come up off a huge chunk of money. Wow, 800 mil. Mm. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to skedaddle. Thank you for listening to This Is Just a Thought with Stephen Carnegie. Amen.